Hello everyone and welcome back to another Persona 5 discussion video. Today we'll be speculating which personas will be given to our supporting cast in Persona 5. Now, it's pretty safe to assume our main character will not be the only one to summon a persona during our adventure, but the question that's been going back and forth in my mind is, which personas will Atlus be giving for our supporting cast? So far, we only know that our main character's persona is named Arsene, which is named after Arsène Lupin, the fictional gentleman thief from French author Maurice Leblanc's novels. And that's the only one we know. Currently, we have no information on who our fellow party members' initial personas may be, but that doesn't stop us from guessing now, does it? My current theory is that the personas for the 5th generation of characters will be figures from classic European literature, as during an interview, Katsura Hishino, the lead director/creative producer for Persona 5, stated this: "In previous Persona games, the stories revolved around pretty traditional heroes, going after villains that most anyone would loathe to associate themselves with. They pursued the bad guys for the sake of justice, essentially. This time around, though, the protagonists of Persona 5 themselves are on the run for doing what they think is right after something happens completely out of the blue. That mixture of thrills and not so larger-than-life cast of characters is what composes the idea of Academy Juveniles for us. We think that these characters are going to be a little rougher around the edges than those who have come before them in the series. So this time, instead of seekers of the truth pursuing a noble cause, we have a group of teenagers that seek something entirely different, but still fight to stop a larger threat. This is exactly how Arsène Lupin acts in Maurice Leblanc's novels, subduing enemies more evil than himself, acting as a vigilante rather than an absolute hero. With all this information taken into account, my hypothesis is that our fellow party members may be possessing other characters from European literature as their personas. Don't believe me? Well, in the same interview, Hishino also stated that the themes of Persona 5 were, in a sense, like taking a picaresque novel and mixing it with a modern, down-to-earth and juvenile setting. The mentioning of picaresque novels really made me think more about my current theory. Having literary figures as our personas could be very possible, as there are a wide variety to choose from. So in this video, I'll be giving some ideas on which literary figures Atlus may choose to create personas for. So let's start with our first 3 confirmed party members. And, well, all we really know about them is they all share a thief theme along with our presumed leader. However, we can infer one thing straight off the bat. Assuming Morgana follows the same trend as Koromaru in his Persona Cerberus and Teddy's Kintoki Doji, I'm pretty confident Morgana is going to be using a cat persona during her battles. There are many likely candidates to choose from, but I would like to suggest that perhaps the character El Gato con gli Stivali, or Puss in Boots, as we know him here in the West, might be our strongest candidate. He too has his roots in European literature, in a similar sense to Arsene. Both could be labeled as gentlemen thieves, as, well, both characters are not villainous by any means, really. However, they aren't really your conventional heroes either, which, well, fits perfectly in the picaresque theme. There are many cat personas we could choose, but honestly, this one makes a lot of sense to me, and I'd be very surprised if somehow the Puss in Boots was not in Persona 5. So now we got the easiest one out of the way, let's move on to Ryuji Sakamoto next. Now, we have a lot less to go on for the other 2 announced characters, so this is where things will start to get a little bit far-fetched. As far as I can tell, in my extremely extensive research that I didn't actually do, there aren't that many thieves that I can find that have a skull mask motif. So either that means my original hypothesis is entirely incorrect and I'm dumb for even bringing it up, or that perhaps Ryuji's persona comes from William Shakespeare's Hamlet. Specifically, the character Yorick. The guy... You know the guy who dies and that's all he does? Yeah, that's Yorick. He's the skull guy. Alright, I'll leave it in. This one is grasping a bit at straws because, well, Hamlet is not really a picaresque novel, and to be perfectly honest, this is pretty much a joke conclusion. Because the beloved jester to Hamlet is always dead throughout the entire story, and unless somehow Ryuji dies, like, during the tutorial fight and somehow comes back to life, I don't know. I don't think they would choose Yorick, to be perfectly honest with you, out of all the characters they could pick from. Because, well, he's not a thief at all. It may be very possible that Ryuji's skull mask is just that, a mask, and has no relation to his character or his persona for that matter, and he simply just puts it on to look cool. But then again, Persona is usually a very clever franchise in how they incorporate symbolism, so maybe it's not too far-fetched after all. Who am I kidding? Alas, poor Yorick, you will be my persona for Ryuji until I figure out one that makes a lot more sense. Okay, moving on to the next character. Last but not least, we have Anne Takamiki, who along with Morgana is a lady thief. However, unlike Morgana, I do believe that Anne will be possessing a female persona, as this is usually the case for non-mascot characters. Now, there are a variety of woman rogues in the many years of European literature that would be well deserving to base a persona on, and depending on Anne's personality, I could see many of them being a good fit, but my personal choice would be Josephine Balsamo. Balsamo is the primary antagonist of Arsène Lupin during his adventures, but she's not necessarily a villain per se. She's more of an adversary to Arsène, as she too is a burglar that, just like Arsène, is mostly a morally gray character, at least in the beginning. Eventually she does escalate into more of a villainous nature, but at the beginning of their tale, she acts as a more neutral character. I think this could be a really interesting take on the Lover's Arcana in Social Link, but then again, I could see how one could argue Balsamo would fit better as an antagonist rather than a heroine, but I think it could work, honestly. Now, like I've said before, there are a lot of great female choices, but I thought this one would make a lot of sense because, well, she does have a primary connection to Arsène, and I honestly believe she will be in the game in some form. Whether she'll be on our team or against us, that remains to be determined. So now that I have my 3 picks for party member personas, let's move on to possible antagonists in Persona 5. Now, first and foremost, Arsène Lupin's primary villain in his stories is, well, not really a villain at all. Sherlock Holmes is a name I'm sure many of you are very familiar with, and I believe if my theory is even remotely accurate, the persona Holmes will be in Persona 5. My reasoning for this is that I think Persona 5 will really blur the description what we consider a villain to be. Perhaps we'll have someone who begins using Holmes for a noble cause, and slowly his reason to chase our motley crew of heroes becomes warped and he becomes a lawfully evil character, and his persona may transform into something more sinister to reflect his change in ideologies. Yet again, a bit far-fetched, but it would make sense. I mean, the two have had some history with each other, so maybe, maybe not. And if that doesn't work for you, there are a wide variety of characters that would make fantastic rivals, such as Zenith the Albino, a fellow gentleman thief who steals not to line his pockets with gold, but simply enjoys the thrills that is to steal. I can see this guy working maybe as a potential rival thief to our main characters, as his popularity even rivals Arsene's. But he's not really a villain per se, just yet again someone who's morally gray. And I guess you could honestly say the same for Holmes in a way, but we need someone a little bit more chaotic, and I have a character that perfectly fits that description. Fantômas is another popular character in French fiction, and he was introduced only a few years after Arsène and Lupin. However, they are extremely different. While Arsène is a gentleman and would never commit murder, Fantômas does not have the same boundaries, and is often depicted as a psychopath who loves to kill in very twisted ways. This master of disguise knows what he wants, and he will stop at nothing to obtain it. If that does not say villain to you, then I don't know what does. I have a lot more to say about this specific character, but I'm gonna have to save that for a future video. Now, there are a lot of other characters that I could choose, and we could go on, but I think I made some halfway decent predictions here. Except for Yorick. I mean, that was just, it's probably not gonna happen. Anyways, the thing about France is that they don't really have a large pantheon of gods and goddesses to choose from like the Japanese and the Greeks do. They do have a wide variety of fairy tales, but I'm not sure if that would really fit with Arsene's sort of thief motif. Now, it is completely possible that Atlas will choose thieves from across the entire world, and I could be completely wrong about just the European focus. But I think it'd be really cool. There's a lot of really interesting European characters in pop culture that I think they could choose a couple of personas from that region at least. But that is all I have to say on the matter. Thank you all so much for watching this Persona 5 video. I hope you are as excited as I am, and if you have anything to add to my theory, or you have your own, please let me know. I highly value your opinions, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. And if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like. It helps me out a ton, and I would greatly appreciate it. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on this matter. Let's hope we receive some very exciting news for Persona 5 in the coming weeks. We do have the Tokyo Game Show coming up, and it has now been confirmed that Persona 5 will be making an appearance. As always, I will be reporting and analyzing any new information we receive, so look forward to that. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.